Now, in 2016, obviously, we created the profiling course, and 2016 was the best year of my career. From the worst year of my career to my new best year of my career. What changed? Well, it took me 2-3 months to recognize the mistakes I made. I joined a fantastic team of traders at Axia. I was in a very good space. Okay, I was with the right people, like-minded people that just wanted to start again, accept what was happening, move on, and start building again. Now, 2017, again, I had the best year of my career. I then decided to obviously found Happiness Capital, so I left the Axia trading floor, and I founded Happiness Capital. Now, obviously, I started working from home. Now, again, a lot of you work from home, and you probably think that it's much harder if you're not in a prop environment. The reality is I've traded in a prop environment and I've traded at home. And guess what? They both have extremely important advantages, but also disadvantages. Some of the things you'll benefit on, being on a prop trading floor. Yes, you're going to miss out on that ability to learn from one another and all the positives that come from being around like-minded individuals. But the reality is, when you work on your own, you're also forced to work a lot harder. You're forced to, do a lot more different things in order to succeed. Okay? There are positive aspects to both trading on a floor and trading on your own, to the point that I don't think there's a difference in terms of performance. Why? Well, because I had my best year in 2017, and then again in 2019, and again in 2020. Now, 2018, I did something, and I started managing a team. I started building trading tools, and I started recognizing that, one of the key lessons I can give any of you, whenever you're traveling, whenever you got really big things on your mind or really big personal things going on, don't trade. Don't bother trading. Okay? Accept that it's okay to not trade for a week, for a month, for 3 months. Because the reality is, if you cannot be in the routine or the environment that makes you successful, right, why bother risking anything? It's not worth it in the long run. Okay, and that was one of the key lessons I took from 2018. Now, 2019, I started systemizing trading. Okay, whether that was the decision-making process, whether that was signaling and automating of strategies, all of that I started to develop in 2019. Now, what I'm going to show you from, what we did, I started developing 2018, 19, and 20, that's everything that is developed in this course that you're going to learn. It's the systemization of the decision-making process. It's the signaling. It's the automation. It's all of these things that I've learned over my career, but particularly over the last 3 years. 2019, I got married. Okay. Now, why this is important is stability at home means stability in front of the screens. Okay. Why? Well, look, if you're young and you're going out partying, well, it's a lot harder to maintain a routine, right? If you're married, your priorities change as well. Sometimes those priorities lead to a better trading performance. For example, when I got married, obviously I was training for an Ironman. So because I was very focused on training and keeping healthy mind, healthy body, healthy eating, all of that had spillover effects into my trading. And then lastly, obviously, is 2020, we had COVID. And I can tell you right now, all of the Axia traders have had the best year of their career. Why? Because we got lucky. Okay. Yes, we had to do the hard work. Yes, we had to take the risk. But the reality is, most of the guys have spent the last, most of the senior traders have been there for 10 years plus. They've spent 10 years developing their process, their skills, their understanding, so that when opportunity comes along like this, they could maximize. Okay, and that's important because you cannot take advantage of a lucky situation unless you have the necessary skills and you're prepared to do so. Okay, so that's what this course is about. That's my timeline. That's my 10 years through trading. Hopefully you can relate to that and take away from it, because at the end of the day, you're no different to me. And that's why I wanted to share that to you. Okay, now let's move on. Now I'm going to take you through a trader's timeline. And this is important, all right, because this is going to start to help you understand that you cannot rush the process of becoming a trader. Too often, I see traders recognizing or thinking that trading is simply get a brokerage account, start clicking and you make money and that's trading. It isn't. Okay, trading is a skill pursuit. Now, you don't see footballers, starting on day one, kicking a ball around, and the next thing they're playing in the Premier League. It just doesn't work that way. You don't see heart surgeons going to medical school for 1 year and then suddenly they're thrust into a hospital, performing open heart surgery. It doesn't work that way. You have to pay your dues. You have to put in your hours. Okay, so in year one, most traders go through what we call a honeymoon phase. It's fun, it's sexy, it's exciting. Oh, I made some money. Oh, it's so easy. That's year one. Now, those that come out of year one and that get to year two, and they'll start to recognize certain basic fundamentals. Okay, now the point is that there's a certain order in which you have to learn things, and I'm going to show you that order in a little bit. But I'm kind of just going to keep it in a year 1 to 10 as opposed to a structured approach, which I'll show you in a few slides. So in year 2, you're going to start to learn basic fundamentals. Okay, and one of the fundamentals I love is the 10,000 hour rule. You've all heard it. Malcolm Gladwell, he's the one that kind of developed it. But the basic sense, and this is what I want you to think about, is if Malcolm Gladwell's theory of 10,000 hours is required to become a master at something, how quickly can you do 10,000 hours? Now, obviously it depends on who you are and a number of different variables, but the way I understand this is 10,000 hours with 6 hours of focused attention. Okay, not just working or sitting in front of a screen. That's not focused. Focused is a reflective behavior where you're actually thinking and understanding and interpreting and reflecting and thinking and understanding and interpreting. Okay, that's focused understanding and attention. So 6 hours a day for 45 weeks a year will take you roughly 7.5 years. Okay, now that's being very, very focused. 6 hours a day is a lot of focused attention. Okay, I would say most people are closer to 4 hours a day of focused attention, which is how we get to more or less 10 years. Right? Now in year 3, you're going to start to learn the foundations of trading. Okay, what do I mean by that? You're going to start to understand the importance of routine. You're going to start to understand the importance of discipline. Right? My question to you is, how quickly and how fast can you fail? Right? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's weird. Why do I need to answer that? Well, the simple reality is the quicker you can fail, the quicker you're going to be exposed to a lot more understanding. Okay, because unfortunately, as humans, we only ever reflect on our failures. We only ever forced to think when we fail. So because we're not looking at all the positive outcomes and not learning as much as we can from the positive outcomes, you have to understand how quickly can you fail. Because if you know how quickly you can fail, you'll know how quickly you're going to start to understand things. So year 4, that's when we start to understand principles. And again, don't worry too much about words like foundations and fundamentals and principles. We're going to go through all of this in the entire course, okay? And this is where you start to understand things like consistency and the power of it, patience and what it can do for you, right? And the question I'd ask you is, how many lessons can the market teach you? Right? What do I mean by that? Well, the reality is markets go through cycles. Sometimes they're volatile. Sometimes they're slow moving. Sometimes they're blipping, as in there's no liquidity, and sometimes they're very thick. The reality is markets go through different cycles, which means you can only learn these cycles when the market presents them to you. Okay. Year 5, principle adoption. Okay. So there's a big difference, and you'll learn this in the next couple of slides. Is there's a very different there's a very, very big difference between principle understanding and principle adoption. Okay, so in a basic sense, principle adoption is where it becomes a part of you. It's ingrained within you, and I'll go through that in a few slides. But in your year 5, you're going to start to understand the power of focus, the power of momentum. When you're in that zone, that's the kind of thing you're going to start to recognize in year 5. Right? And you're going to start to, understand when principles are actually adopted. So just because you understand something doesn't mean you adopt it, right? A lot of what I'm going to teach you in this course, I understand the theory, I understand the basics, I understand risk management. That doesn't mean I fully adopt it, okay? I still make mistakes. But that's the point of it, is I keep working on it so that one day it's fully adopted. Okay, year 6, you start to understand the concept of doors being unlocked. What do I mean by this? Okay, crucial. Through a lot of practice, through a lot of understanding, and through finally adopting certain principles, what you're going to recognize is the adoption of those principles leads to certain doors being unlocked. Right? It's that aha moment. For example, if you develop a really good routine and it becomes a part of you and you start to believe that your routine is what's making you successful, what you're going to recognize is what is the power of having that routine, right? What it means is that, for example, you get in the morning, you're very, very well prepared, you execute well, you perform well. It's that aha moment, it's that door being unlocked that gives you that higher level of understanding. Okay, most people don't ever get to that point simply because they don't adopt the principle for long enough to unlock certain doors. Okay, but some of the things you're going to develop in your year 6, self-understanding, okay, your capability. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Now, a lot of people say, oh, I know my strengths and weaknesses and I've only just started trading. Well, the reality is, guys, is that you're only going to learn your strengths and weaknesses over time. Why? Because you're exposed to more experiences over time. Year 7, you're finally going to start learning to compete. You're going to learn how to lose. You're going to learn to get good at losing. But you're also going to learn how to win. You're going to start learning how to maximize on those winners. Year 8, you're going to start to understand what strategy as an edge is. Okay, yes, a lot of you have got strategies, but it takes years and years to refine those strategies, interpret them, adjust them to get to the point where you know that strategy in and out. Okay, when you watch the YouTube videos back from the Axia traders, what you are watching is the years of development, okay, where they finally understand their strategy and the edge. You're also going to finally understand to define your own trading rules. Now, I will talk a lot about this over the course, but defining your own trading rules means you don't play by the rules of the market. You play by your own rules because you know what makes you successful within the markets, okay? If you're someone that performs very, very well between the hours of 6 and 8 a.m., you will only know that after a couple of years, and you will then maximize within those trading hours and sometimes not even trade the rest of the day. Okay? But it's those rules that you'll come to develop over time that you will start to define in year 8. Year 9, edges within the application. Extremely powerful quote. You might have heard me say this and you're going to hear me say it a lot. The edge is in the application. Okay, I'm going to teach you a lot of strategies in this course. Right? I can show you a strategy. I can sit you right next to me. But the reality is you might not make money from that exact same strategy. Why? Because the way I apply myself to that strategy is what ultimately makes me profit. Okay? That being said, I am going to show you a methodology in this course, right? Which is the Access methodology. And that is the application I'm talking about. It's that application that's going to help you to thrive in your trading career. In year 9, you're also going to start to understand no limit trading. What does that mean? It means that the limits are only set by yourself ultimately. Okay, the limits are the sky in essence when it comes to trading. And you're only going to be able to understand that through years of experience and understanding. And then eventually in year 10, you become an elite performer. Now, I've never liked the word elite, simply because I feel elite means you've reached the end point. And I put it here because I want you to understand that the average Axia trader that is now deemed an elite trader has taken 10 years. That's the reality. Okay, it takes you a minimum of 10 years to become an elite trader, to have those 7-figure days. That's the reality, guys. And that's what I want you to understand. However, 10 years is not the cap. That's not the end point. 10 years is just simply the point, to where you can now perform at a very, very high level. Right? You still keep learning, you still have to keep growing, you still have to keep making mistakes and experiencing different situations. That's the reality. Okay, that's the trader's timeline. Again, hopefully you can relate, and this is all going to start to make sense in a minute as to why I'm doing this, but see yourself there. See yourself. Where are you on that 1 to 10 years? Okay, if you can see this process of a 10-year career, you're going to start to see the forest. That's the clue. Most traders see each year individual. They see the trees, the individual trees, rather than the big picture forest, which is that to become an elite performer takes you a period of time. Right? Trading is ultimately a skill pursuit. Okay, now this is the actual versus expected timeline. And again, we're almost at the end of this part 1. stick with it, yeah. But what we're talking about here ultimately is that every trader wants to go on the straight line. Every trader wants to, has expectations. Every trader, wants to learn the fundamentals, then the principles, then how to trade, then how to compete. They all want to learn these things in chronological order. The reality is it doesn't work like that, okay? Sometimes you're going to learn, very important fundamental lessons in the beginning, and sometimes you're going to, have to learn some really harsh lessons in the beginning, okay? And that's what we're talking about with this random walk. All right, you have got a personal journey to follow. Now, one of the things I've come to learn in my career is that everyone is different. Okay, no one's journey, no two people's journeys are the same. And why I tell you this is when you work on a trading floor, you're always looking at the top dog. You're always looking at the guy at the top and going, I'm better than him. I can be better than him. I work harder than him. But the reality, he isn't your competition. Okay, yes, trading comes down to who makes the most money, of course. But he isn't necessarily a competition. You are your own competition. Why? Because you've got your own random walk to go for. Okay? Everyone has to go on their own random walk. And if you accept that, you're going to save yourself a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, a lot of sort of almost jealousy of why am I not performing as well as him? We've been trading, both been trading for 3 years together. The example I'll give you, when I started on the career program and, as a trader, the guy next to me, my desk mate, as we called it, he went a different approach. He went automated strategies from day one. And he only started making profit after 4 or 5 years, right? I started becoming profitable already after 18 months, and I started making good money. But the reality is, once he had started making profits, he kind of went exponential. As in, he was making substantially more money than what I was making. Why? Well, yes, maybe he's a better trader, but the reality is he followed his own path, okay? And everyone's own path gets to elite performance. That's the reality. We all get to the same endpoint. It's just, the journey you have to go on to get to that endpoint. Now, one of the things I will say, survival and sacrifice is the key, okay? You're going to have to find a way to survive these dips. You're going to go through them, I promise you. I blew out an account. I know many traders that have blown out accounts. I know many times I've been through extreme dips where I just want to give up. Even in my 6th year, even my 7th year, guess what? Even in 2020, when I've had my best year ever, I've thought about quitting. Okay? That's the honest truth. You are going to think about this all the time. Now, why I share that with you is because the sooner you can accept that and understand that, the sooner you're going to kind of come to terms with it, right? Is that you've just got to get through that next dip, get over that next speed bump, right? The best traders are the ones that when they get knocked down, they step straight back up. Those are the best traders, right? They find a way to survive and they make the necessary sacrifices, okay? Manage the expectations. This is crucial, right? And this is the reason why I'm doing this part 1 with you. I need you to manage your expectations as a trader. All right, if you've been doing this for 6 months and you're struggling, guess what? You're going to struggle for another couple of years. If you've been doing this for 2-3 years and you're thinking, I'm not making any money, guess what? You're going to struggle for another couple of years. If you've been doing this for 9 years and you don't think you've quite hit your peak performance, guess what? You just got to keep going because your elite performance is just around the corner. That's the point, is I need to manage all of your expectations to recognize that this is a journey. It's a personal journey. And if you can keep working at it, keep growing, keep learning the lessons, keep understanding or adopting the understanding, you're going to get to that elite performance. Might not take you 10 years, might take you 7 years, might take you 15 years. But the reality is this is a journey. It's a personal journey, and you need to manage those expectations so that you stay motivated. What I like to sometimes say to people, if I could guarantee you that in 10 years you'll be an elite trader, would you do everything in your power just to keep going? The simple answer is yes, of course you would. So just have faith. Have that blind faith that you'll get there. Don't give up. The last thing is the big picture focus, okay? If you're in this journey, you're in it because you want to become a trader. You want to have everything that traders have, which is not just the financial aspect, okay? A lot of people think that's what it is. It isn't, all right? It is everything that comes with it. It's the freedoms. It's the independence. It's to be able to say the things you know, to understand the things you want to understand about the job, about yourself. everything that comes with the territory of being a trader. Focus on that. That's the big picture. That's why you're doing this. It's ultimate freedom. Okay. Now, the last slide before we take a break is the trading evolution. Okay, and this is an important slide because I've showed you a timeline. I've showed you my timeline. I've showed you the timeline that you can expect. And then again, everyone has their own timeline. Okay, the important thing is, and you're going to get this as a drill, is you've got to go understand your own timeline, right? But what you have got to come to understand is a lot of traders make the mistake of when they start trading, they're already up here in point 5, which is competing to win. What do we mean by this? Okay, this is a process of adoption. In other words, it's like a pyramid. You cannot build a pyramid starting at the top. You've got to start building the foundation, which is trading fundamentals. Okay. Now this entire course is ultimately designed on this trading evolution, which is what are the fundamentals of trading? This is the basics. Things like, what markets should you trade? What is volatility? What is, support and resistance? These are trading fundamentals, right? You cannot start to build strategies until you fully understand trading fundamentals, okay? And most traders make this mistake, which is they get a trading account and straight away they're building strategies. But they haven't come to realize that there's certain fundamentals and gaps in their understanding that they're going to be forced to learn at some point. Okay, and this is what I love about this chart is that, let's say for example you do go out and build a strategy. You might spend 2, 3, 4, 5 months. You deploy your strategy. It makes a little bit of money, and then all of a sudden, bang! One day something comes out. A news comment, and you lose your entire account. And you go back and you understand that liquidity was at a premium, and because of that, you learn something about liquidity. Now, liquidity is a fundamental understanding of the market. It's something you need to know as a fundamental, right? Why? Because it's going to impact your strategies at the end of the day. So by not knowing that fundamental, you blew up an account and you're forced to start all over again. Right, and that's what this pyramid's all about, is if you build poor foundations, at some point your pyramid's going to collapse, and guess what? You're going to be straight back to building that foundation again. All right, so this course follows along this understanding, which is build those fundamentals, understand the principles. Once you've done that, then you have to learn to trade. Okay, learning to trade isn't strategic. It isn't building a strategy. This is all the little things that come with learning to trade. The good days, the bad days, the time of days to trade, or anything you can think of with regards to learning to trade. Once you've learned to trade, you've made all the mistakes, you've failed and succeeded and failed again and succeeded, then you can finally start to learn to compete. Okay, now to give you a rough idea of years, you're always going to be learning new fundamentals. You're always going to be learning to trade in a better way. That never changes. That goes without saying. But roughly speaking, it's going to take you the first 4 or 5 years for these 2 blocks. 4 or 5 years, guys, to learn the fundamentals and learn to trade. Only once you've done that can you start to learn to compete. Now, I'm not saying you don't make money in those first 4 or 5 years. What I'm saying is you're only going to start making real money when you learn to compete, who you're up against, who are the participants in the market, when certain strategies work well, when they don't work well. This is learning to compete, all right? And then you're going to start trading to compete, okay? And there's a big difference. Learning to compete is, what are the things I should be doing and shouldn't be doing? Trading to compete is now, do I physically do those things when I trade? Okay, remember what I said to you. Just because you know something or understand that you shouldn't trade over non-farm payrolls straight away because it's extremely illiquid, doesn't mean you don't go clicking around non-farm payrolls. Okay, so there's a big difference between learning to compete and ultimately trading to compete. And then the last one is competing to win. And this is where you get to after 10 years. This is when you start to develop your edge, sort of around year 7, and when you start to become an elite performer. It's competing to win. Now, one of the things I'm going to show you toward the end of the course is trading tools, okay, risk management tools, training calendars, cue cards. All of these things are ultimately there to help you to compete to win, because you want to be the best. You want to be better than anyone else. And that's why we build those tools, because we're now competing to win. All right, guys, let's take a break there. A lot's been said. Go take a break, and we'll come back for part 2.